Welcome to the darkness.
Hey, we're back. We're back. So this week, yesterday, we actually had the blood moon eclipse. Did you guys get to see that at all?
No.
Wasn't it like 3 in the morning or something?
It was like 4. 4 was what I saw on the pages.
4.
I was like, no, I'm not waking up at 4. No.
Shoot, I get up at 4:30. I should have just gotten up a half hour early to go see that. But it was really spectacular. Was it last night? Watching the moon. Oh, the moon was rising last night over the mountain here, Mount Putnam, and it was just blood red. It was so pretty. It was
That's
so
cool.
pretty. Yeah. So can you guys feel the effects of those eclipses? And have you noticed that?
Not
No?
really for me. Like the full moon definitely, I can definitely feel it when like the energies around me. But when it comes to eclipses, it's
Oh,
neither here nor there. It doesn't really bug me too much.
okay. Look, hey, McKenna, it looks like you're kind of glitching out a little bit. I don't know what's happening. You're freeze framing. So I don't know what's happening here. You might want to come out of go out of the studio and come back in. I don't know. I don't know what's happening. So, there she went. I knew it was going to happen. She'll be back, guys. She'll be back. Sometimes electronics, and I've noticed that, when we have like solar flares and things like that, man, our electronics go a little bit wonky. But so, for any of you who are new here, please make sure that you ask for a reading at any time during the show. We do have discussions on tarot cards, and we're going to continue our discussion on some gods tonight, but you can ask for a reading anytime. You don't have to wait for a break. You don't have to wait for a particular time. We may wrap up a little bit of a discussion, and then we'll get right to your reading. And Emily is fabulous, and she'll give you guys a reading if you want to know about finances or work or a move or a trip or anything like that. Ask for a reading and she'll give it to you.
The only thing I ask is I don't read other people. I only read you. Like, so I won't read if you think the other person loves you or anything really to do with relationships. That's just something I feel like I just won't do.
That's actually probably a really good idea, because you don't want to, it's almost intrusive, like you're reading somebody else without their permission. So, and her phone number, Emily's phone number, is down here scrolling at the bottom of the screen. So please make sure that you write down her phone number and text her for a full reading. This is something that she does. It's a part of her income, and she's very good at it. And you can set up a reading with her that has nothing to do with the show. That's all for her and for you to figure out. And McKenna's back. Let's see. It's still kind of wonky here, maybe. It's trying. I don't know what's going on with their internet tonight. So anyway, we can get going. And I know, Emily, that you, what goddess were you going to talk about tonight?
Saraswati.
Saraswati.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want me to do my
spiel? Hold on just a second, Emily. McKenna, you're still a little glitchy. I don't know.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah, I don't know are you connected on your laptop directly to your router, or you Wi-Fi tonight?
Wi-Fi in it.
Yeah.
It might be the double stream. Let me see if I can.
Oh, because you're streaming to multiple places. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, you're
Hmm.
just you're there she goes again. Okay, go ahead, Emily. Let's go ahead and get
Okay.
what you're
Okay.
doing.
So the goddess I did was Saraswati. She is the Hindu goddess of the arts and music and learning. I like goddesses who have a little more uh, oomph to them, I guess you could say. So she was intriguing to me. What's kind of cool is she is the personification of the Saraswati River, which is a sacred river in the Hindu area. Let me look at my little. So it meets the Ganges and the Yamuna River. Um, and it's one of the oldest of the rivers in the area. And what's kind of cool is it disappeared a few years back. So it's a hidden river, but they do believe that it was a real river. And so um, they've done they've done digging and they've done like water table analysis and things like that to see that this really was a river. So part of her past was she was a mind-born daughter of the god of Brahma, who is one of the kind of major gods of the Hindu religion. And she is the patron goddess of education, the arts, music, and speech. And she's usually accompanied by a goose or a swan, and she holds a manuscript and her signature vina, which is like a stringed instrument. So it's like a really long neck and it has like the instrument down at the bottom.
Mhm.
And what? Yeah,
Children.
sorry,
No,
children asking me questions. Um, so let me look at my notes. Sorry.
well,
Um,
interesting. But you brought up the fact that the river disappeared, and it's kind of like my so I'm an environmental scientist
oh,
by occupation, and so I study a lot of this stuff. And I don't know where this river is exactly, but a lot of times rivers will, well, streams particularly, not rivers, because there's a lot of volume. What makes a stream and a river is different in different parts of the river or world,
mhm.
right? But a lot of times they say that the water will sub, so it goes underground for a while and then it'll pop back out. It's just the
Oh, that's
way
cool.
that um, the layers of the earth geologically sometimes
Hmm.
are more porous, so the water just sinks, and so it sinks down, flows underground, pretty shallow usually, and then it when it hits another strata of rock that's not as porous, it'll pop back up. So just
Oh, that's cool.
yeah.
That is really cool. So they actually believe that it was near like the Arabian Sea, where it kind of went to. So somewhere in near the Ganges, kind of joins up with the Ganges to near the Arabian Sea. And and it also could have been, some researchers believe that it was part of the a dry riverbed in the Gagar River system, but
Okay.
there's connections between the different civilizations in that area and the veneration of the rivers. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. So what's kind of cool is since she's the goddess of speech, because of the Indian, the Vedic culture, everything that they would pass down was all by voice. So it was a vocal culture. They would tell stories, and then the stories would be passed down, and that's how knowledge was passed down as well. There wasn't really a written
A written language,
education, a
right?
written
Yeah.
language, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it would all be passed down orally, which was, I thought, was really cool.
There she
I did a lot of research on that when I was in college, so that was kind of fun. And what's kind of cool, I like when you get these goddesses who kind of enter the mouths of the people who are uh, asking for her help. And so part of it is she's described entering sages' mouths and to inspire their speech, kind of like kind of like the fates in a sense, or the muses, like the muses from Grecian times. So
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of like that.
Right.
And I like it. in some of the Sanskrit texts that were actually written down, they are seen to invoke Shazwati. So it's kind of cool.
That's cool. I like, yeah, that's interesting. I don't think I've ever done any research or reading on her. Yeah, that's pretty neat. You said she's Hindu?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's so like let me show.
A lot of the Hindu
So
gods did they have like a lot of arms and
yeah, so there's one picture of one of
oh, wow.
her things. So like you see her with like scrolls or like music or things like that. She's playing her little flute thing. Sometimes she's seen with 2 arms, sometimes she's seen with 4. She's not one of the like the 8 armed
Oh,
goddesses
yeah,
like
yeah,
Vishnu or things like that, but she does have extra arms, so it's kind of cool.
yeah.
They still have um they still have things that are like devoted to her. So she can be worshipped any time of the year, and she's popular among students and musicians and other performers, which is really cool. And her most important celebration is the Saraswati Puja, which is during the Hindu festival of Vasant Panchami. I'm sorry if I'm killing this language. Um, it's usually in the spring, so I figured perfect timing. And
Yeah.
it's usually like late January, early February, and they worship her by learning to write their first letters to her. And
Oh,
then they present books or pens as part of the festival. And sometimes she is also in like the southern Indian states, she's also celebrated in autumn. And so she's greatly revered during like those times.
nice.
So
Well, I work a lot with Bridget, and
yeah,
she's,
I love
yeah,
Bridget.
I love Bridget, right? So Bridget is in Catholicism, they canonized her and made her Saint Bridget. But
Yeah.
Bridget is a triple goddess, and she's a major figure in Irish mythology, and she appears as also, as I said, the Christian saint. She's the patroness of healing, of poetry, of she symbolizes light, inspiration, the arrival of spring, because we usually talk about Bridget and on Imbolc, which is February 1st of every year. So it's pretty cool. I think some people will make brooms or say the Bridget's cross, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
for Imbolc, and it's so she's considered the member of the super race of deities in ancient supernatural Ireland, right? So she's the daughter of Dagda, which is the chief of the gods, and she was married to Bray, which is he was a Formian king, and she was trying to keep peace between tribes, so she married him. And of course, that still happens, or maybe not so much anymore, but it happened up for centuries that people would marry for power, domination, to keep peace. It was all strategic, and she wasn't any different than that. And she's considered a triple goddess because she has a sister named Bridget, the 2 sisters named Bridget, and one oversaw healing and the other one oversaw smithing. And then, but the primary Bridget that everybody worships was the goddess of the poets. So it's like this triple energy. And the Celts thought that the gods were alive. They weren't some god in the sky that you never saw. They were flesh and bone, and they could go between realms, and they had all these powers. She's the guardian of the sacred hearth and the eternal flame, and she's also the goddess of water, associated with numerous holy wells across Ireland. So there's a lot of these wells that they believe that she blessed, and so the water is more pure and it has special powers, and like you could bless your home. And it was pretty interesting. But she apparently, during the second battle of oh boy, I'm going to slaughter this. Churid. Her son, Rudan was killed. And let's see if we can get McKenna back. Hey, she's back.
Hi. My
Yeah.
computer was wigging out, so I had to switch to my phone.
Oh no.
Like
Well,
the early days.
Let me get done with Bridget, and then you can talk about who you're. I'm glad you're back though. So during this battle, her son was killed, and overwhelmed by grief, Bridget, she started crying on the battlefield, and apparently her cries were said to be the first instance of the sound called keening in Ireland. It's a wail. It's a wail of distress and mourning and grief. And now it's considered a ritual wail in Ireland. So when someone dies over there, the keening, people keen. It's the wail. And it's, God, how heartbreaking is that? And then there was this story that about Bridget that she asked the king of Leinster for land to build a monastery for both men and women. Huh?
I love this story.
Yeah. And when he mockingly agreed to give her only as much as her cloak could cover, she laid it on the ground and it miraculously expanded to cover the entirety of Kildare. So I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, this gal's got, yeah. So one of the things that Bridget is known for is that she's like the keeper of animals and she knows to heal. And that's why I was so drawn to her, because for those of you who don't know, I have a little farm and I'd say 99% of the animals out here are rescues. I have goats and a donkey and horse and dogs and cats and chickens, and even the chickens are rescues, a lot of them. And I ask Bridget to come and heal and protect and give me guidance with the animals. And I always feel like she delivers, like she's there. She's walking with them all the time to make sure that they're strong and they're happy. And I do raise one species of animal for the freezer. And even while they're here for their short little time and sorry if you don't eat meat out there, but even if they're here, I want them happy and playing, and they have basketballs and they can play and run in the pasture. And it's important to me so that the animals are always happy, but the rescues are the rescues. They stay forever. And then there was the story about the fox and the king. To save a man who accidentally killed a king's pet fox, Bridget tamed a wild fox and taught it to perform all of these incredible tricks to amuse the king. And he then granted the man his freedom. So because it was an accident, he didn't mean to kill the king's fox. I love that story. And then to escape an unwanted marriage, she was quite beautiful. She didn't want to marry this person initially, and she dedicated herself to a spiritual life, and she prayed for her beauty to be taken away. And legends say her face became disfigured, making her unmarriageable, but her beauty was restored once she was ordained. So that's Bridget. So the Feast of St. Bridget falls on February 1st, and it coincides with the Gaelic festival of Imbolc, and it marks the beginning of spring. And many historians believe that they canonized Bridget so that they could bring, the pagans into Christianity, bring them into the fold, and they would be more willing to, because they followed her. And she's also often called Mary of the Gall, which is credited for founding that famous double monastery that we talked about a little bit in Kildare, which is called the Church of the Oak. So
it's so pretty. If you see any of the pictures, it's so pretty.
Wow. There's other stories about Bridget, but I just when you're practicing and you're calling upon these gods and you're asking them for guidance and help and growth and whatever, right? She always feels so level and so calm. Like when I ask her to, for whatever, for guidance for the animals or to help heal, something that comes in that's really sick, and that it just feels like everything calm. Like I've got this. Relax, everything's going to be fine. I love that feeling. I love that feeling with her. So yeah, that's Bridget. So
Yeah. When I've worked with her before, like the one time she kind of smacked me upside the head. I was going through like a miscarriage,
oh,
and I was feeling so alone and so everything. And then she's just like, she kind of smacked me on the head. She's like, go call your mother right now. And it was just, but like I felt like I was just wrapped in a big blanket, and she's just like, it'll be fine, but you need to call your mother. And so it was just one of those times where I'm just like, I really felt that connection to her, and I
mm,
really felt that real, like, okay, she's kind of been there for a long time for me.
that's wonderful. And for people who aren't familiar with working with these different gods and calling upon them, you don't need a fancy altar. You don't need now all of these symbolisms like from our altars was taken into Christianity as well. If you go to a Catholic church and you see the symbolism of everything, that came from all of these ancient practices of working with the gods and calling upon them and asking them for help and guidance. So that symbolism came over, but you don't really need that. I mean, you can just sit out there on a rock and have a discussion with whomever. It can be your dad who passed away or whomever. Just sit out there and call upon who you want to talk to. You'll be amazed at the feeling that you get. So, and some of them you don't call on lightly, and we'll teach you about that too, because they'll slap you around hard. So, yeah,
Oh
you
yeah.
have to be careful with what you wish for out there, gang. McKenna, what you got?
Okay. So technical difficulties hopefully over. So I chose the Mayan goddess Ishel. It's pronounced, or it's spelled Ixchel, but it's pronounced Ishel. So she is a Mayan jaguar goddess of midwifery and medicine. Uh, Another name she goes by is the Lady of the Rainbow. Um, Very, very interesting, like learning about this, you know. Uh, I'm Hispanic. My dad's from Costa Rica. Um, but you don't really learn a whole lot about like the history because like there's only like so much that's actually recorded because when the Spaniards came over, the conquistadors came to like conquer our people, they also destroyed like all of these texts and
Mhm.
all of our history, essentially, all of our written history. So it was really not easy to find information, but it is interesting. Um, So Ishel, she governs fertility, childbirth, medicine, and weaving. She's also a patroness of the arts. So she's what's considered a triple goddess. So that means she's portrayed in like three different forms. So she's initially portrayed as a young, beautiful maiden, and then her second form is matronly, like a motherly role, and then her final form is the crone, which is more of a malevolent, punishing type of personality. Um,
Are you saying that as we get older, we get meaner? Is that what's being in here? I don't.
I'm not saying it. The histories are saying it.
Oh, blaming on that.
Just some rocks that had some pictures and some letters.
All right. Okay.
So, okay, so we are going to kind of get into that. So, Dresden, it's in Germany. So, like Dresden, Germany, this text is called the Dresden Codex because this is where this is essentially studied. But it's a documentation of the different Mayan gods. And in the Dresden, it said that Ishel's three forms are separate deities, not like one deity. Though historians of the Maya have conflicting opinions. So some people say that there's only 12 gods, and then there's others saying that there's over 250
Wow.
in the Mayans' beliefs. And, so much of it is open to interpretation because so much is lost. So much of the written history, the mythology, was destroyed in 1562 due to a mass burning of books by Bishop Diego de Landa. So tisk tisk on him. We don't like him. So a lot of this, is just bits and pieces that people have been able to find. Archaeologists have been able to study small bits of text that survived, essentially. But Ishel, so her appearance, we'll kind of go through all of her appearances. In this kind of like context, we'll refer to her as like a single goddess that like can, phase between her different forms. But as her young maiden form, she's often portrayed with a rabbit, which in the Maya also has association with the moon. And she's very much referred to as the moon goddess. And that does correlate later on because her counterpart, her spouse, essentially, in the Maya is sometimes referred to as the sun god or the creator god. And so they're kind of like that, opposite side of the coin, the two sides of like one single piece. So as the mother and the weaver, so that kind of symbolism, they have these things, they're like waist looms, essentially. It's where it's like connected to you and you're using it, like you're pulling with it connected to your waist, and that creates the tension, and that's how you weave. But because the cords are coming off of your stomach, it's a symbolism because she symbolizes fertility of the umbilicus and the placenta, essentially. And that kind of goes into like a whole other like belief of fertility, and we'll kind of get into that. It gets really cool. But as her crone form, her malevolent form, it's like there's another name for it, which is chalk shell. But she is absolutely death and destruction. So this is her jaguar form. She has the ears of a jaguar. She has clawed hands and feet. She has a serpent wrapped around her neck. Her dress is like made up of bones. Like she is, fire and blood, to make a Game of Thrones reference. Well, it's more like water and blood because she floods instead of burns. So her spouse, we kind of got into him just a little bit. So his name is Itzamna. And he is the creator god, the lord of the heavens. He's credited with creating the Mayan calendar and their like written hieroglyphics. And he's also like one of like the few gods known to the Mayans that's not that doesn't like flip back and forth as far as like punishing the mortals, punishing the people. He's very wise. Like, of course, there's some turmoil with his wife occasionally, but as far as the people, he doesn't like lash out and like punish the people, which I think is like not always a common thing, with these all-powerful beings.
Yeah, you get a power and you start wielding it badly.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Someone hurts your feelings and you smite them. So
I'd smite. I think I'd smite.
Yeah. I'd probably smite. I'd probably smite a couple. Hello.
I smite. Yeah, I think I would not be good if I had all power. Probably.
I think people that deserved it would get the wrath. I have faith in you.
Okay. True, but they probably wouldn't think so. So, yeah,
That's why they're the bad guys. We don't care. Okay, so the myth is that Ishel, our goddess, was a skilled weaver working on a waist loom. When her beauty and talent captivated her spouse, Itzamna, he took her into the heavens and married her. And they had, says that they had 13 children. And I couldn't find the names of all of them. I did find the most important ones. So their four, like, most important children are four sons. And they are, like, the Mayans are so incredible. Like, they are incredible mathematicians. They are incredible map makers. They charted stars. Same. Also could not be a cop. But these four sons of these two incredible gods, held up the corners of the earth. They have different colors associated with each one, and they're supposed to represent north, south, east, and west. But they're essentially holding up the sky, holding up the earth. And so, they're fairly important. Also, one of their children is the god of maize, which is corn. And one is like the god of wild plants and animals. And then there's one that's like the god of cocoa, because chocolate comes from South America. And then there's like a few other sons and daughters that were various water and death gods. But one story that I really like, and this is where I found one that like really specifically mentioned her as like a moon goddess. It said that Ishel and her husband died and were reborn as the sun and moon. Her and Itzamna's relationship was passionate. It was also filled with discord. The stories say that Itzamna, in fits of jealousy, would cast Ishel from the heavens, and that these uproars resulted in moonless nights. So he would cast the moon out, and then we'd have no moon. It would be dark. And like as an indigenous people, they're like, it's dark. They're fighting up there. They're having a having a tiff.
That's interesting. Okay.
Right. It's kind of interesting, like, what we know now, or like what we associate, as like science or modern science now, kind of like you think of it as like silly, but also everyone believes something different. Everyone believed something different back then. And it's really cool to learn about it anyway, and to like learn that respect for the other cultures. That's why I love this. I love this show. So we're going to kind of transition a little bit here about Ishel's like duality. And this is where most gods were. So like her spouse is very, honorable, very honest. She is not. Like she is, but she's also, she's got a bad side. So she's said to be benevolent. Like for the most part, she's great. She represents life and fertility. But when she turns into her crone side, she turns destructive. She sends floods, curses people, sends disease. So she holds the power to give life and to take it as she sees fit.
Mm-hmm.
So very powerful. And I mean, it's kind of like almost like a Zeus and Hera kind of like situation, where you have like your two main gods that are essentially the parents of like the majority of like the higher gods. So you have to imagine like, and she is very important to the Mayan people, and she's still very important to the Mexican people now, and other people like in Guatemala, and really anyone all over the world that wants to worship her or pay tribute to her. And there's people that still do. So there's two main temples dedicated to Ixchel. One is in Cozumel, Mexico, and the other is at the Isla Mujeres, which is the island of women, both in Mexico. So festivities to celebrate her happen in the Mayan month Zip, ZIP. And I had to learn all about the Mayan calendar to figure out when this actually was, because a couple things I read were like, this celebration that we're learning about now happens in September, August, September. And then I started to learn about the Mayan calendar. I'm like, this is not correct. And so I figured out actually when it's happening. But in the Mayan calendar, the months there's 18 months of 20 days, and then also 5 random leftover days. So it's still like the same amount as our calendar year, but the months are many and they're smaller. So Zip is the 3rd month in the Mayan calendar, and I did the math. So this year it begins on May 10th and ends May 30th. And festivities to celebrate her happen in the Mayan month of Zip. So in May, they kind of like do these festivals. So Mayan women were said to make 2 pilgrimages to her temple on Cozumel in their lifetime. So the first, they would go as a young girl taken by their mother to pay tribute to the fertility goddess. And then the next is when they would be taking their daughter to pay tribute to the fertility goddess. And so it's kind of like this cycle of women passing the torch, mothers and daughters, going to honor this goddess that essentially they attribute to giving them their children. they say the Ishel was the reason why, like, it determined the outcome of the gender of your child. And essentially everything about it, like all of the physical traits, whether it was a boy or a girl, when they were born, had to do with Ishel. She decided all of that. So they wanted to pay tribute if they were trying to get something specific. um, so the women would go essentially. So they do this pilgrimage and they would go in groups and they would sing and they would dance and they would pay tribute and bring gifts, which are like flowers and food and like images of Michelle's face and her likeness. And what I found super cool was that people still do that today. So the people in Mexico, the people that want to pay tribute to her, go on the 26th of May, which I do enjoy that it's still like within actually the month of Zip, or at least right now. I don't know how accurate it is year to year. I assume it's pretty accurate. I don't know. Haven't gone that far into the math yet. But hundreds of people take rowboats. Hundreds. They say it's an average 400 to 500 people get in rowboats and they row across the Caribbean from Playa del Carmen to the temple on Cozumel. And they essentially do the same thing. They go to receive her blessings. They go to pay tribute to her.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That is
Right? Cool. It is.
I
It's really, really.
We still today in 2026 are paying tribute and remembering,
Right.
ancients. So it's very cool.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, the main consensus of most people, or at least in the United States, is like Christianity. And I think so many people growing up with this and with this singular mindset really creates this negative viewpoint of like occultism when they see other people practicing things that they wouldn't practice. Which, I mean, you're raised how you're raised, but it just really shows like how many people grow up in ignorance and and really they don't grow up. You actually grow and become like this what's the term, I'm like losing all of my words, uh fulfilled whole person. Once you can still believe whatever you want to believe, but like having peace for others and their beliefs and the way that they want to worship whoever they want to worship is one of the highest forms of maturity.
Totally. I agree with you.
Mm-hmm. I've been I've lived all over the country and I've been to just about every type of religious service this country has to offer. I have been to snake charmers. That one I hadn't gone to. I hadn't gone to Amish, obviously, because it's a closed community and they're not going to let you in. But Mennonite and Quaker and just so many, just so many. And I always wanted to experience a little flavor of all of that. And I found it really, really interesting. But it saddens me when people label the deities as a cult. Yeah. Because a cult has a really negative connotation to it. Hollywood, it's all safe and all that. Well, if you talk to somebody who practices like I practice, we don't even believe in Satan. Like it's not, that was a Christian concept. And so I didn't believe in that. Not that there's anything wrong with it if you do believe in it, because that's your background, that's your faith, that's your spirituality, whatever. That's really, really cool. But I remember asking years and years ago, we had actually a Jewish Baptist minister in Pennsylvania. He left Judaism and became a Baptist because he just, I know, right? I remember his name was Jay Silverstein and he was our minister. And I'm like, Silverstein. And so I got to know him and we were talking one day and I was just laughing at just his history, but I asked him, I said, so what are your thoughts on people who would never exposed to Christianity, then that they automatically go to hell because they were never exposed to it. They wouldn't even know, for example, before the Western world came into America, and the Native Americans had deities. They had, right? And so were they automatically then, according to what we are being told in those services? And he said, yeah, well, according to the word, he goes, I don't believe that at all. He goes, I mean, he was just the coolest guy. He goes, no, I don't believe that at all. He goes, you worship what you worship because it's important to your people. And he goes, it doesn't make you any less. Doesn't make you any less than if you were, if you're not Baptist. I mean, he was the coolest guy. I loved him.
Yeah.
Because it was so like, no, but if I asked that to just about every minister ever, in all of these different faiths, and they all, oh yeah, absolutely. I'm like, and then I would leave. I'm like, no, I don't believe that. And I kept searching until I found someone who was pretty cool. He's like, no, I don't. He goes, how could that be? He goes, no, I don't believe that at all. It's pretty interesting.
Sometimes when, like, because I don't know. I don't have a religion, or I don't have a specific like method of worship. And so I do think about it sometimes, and I kind of always, like, my mind always goes to the joke, which is it's a blessing and a curse. But I always think of Dante's Inferno. I don't know if you ever read about that, all the different levels of hell. And there's one that's like specifically for unbaptized babies and children and people that perform, mild sexual acts. And it's just swirling in a vortex forever. The rest of the levels of hell are horrific. But this is the only one that's kind of like, yeah, you weren't baptized. You can just forever. Like, I'm like, well, if that's as bad as it's going to get, that's as bad as it's going to get.
I have such a hard time with it. I think a lot of these constructs were used for power and control.
And fear.
Fear. Yeah. I mean, they ruled by fear. It's like, if you don't look what happened, between the Catholics and the Protestants. Was it the Protestants or the
So
Lutheran?
there's Catholics and Protestants. Those were in like in England, in Old England. And then also in the same time period, there were the Catholics and the Muslims. So like Catherine of Aragon's mother, Isabella, was like, murdering all the Muslims so that everyone was Catholic.
Yeah. I mean, everybody has murdered everybody in the name of a god.
Yes.
Some god out there.
Yeah.
The bloodshed in the name of God, any god. It's just like blows my mind, because
so sad.
Isn't it? Here you're supposed to.
Right. And it goes to like, I mean, the
kind and loving God that we're talked about now. Like,
yeah. Yep. It's so singular, like these religions where, this is what's correct. And, if you believe it, then they build up like this sense of superiority. Like, we're right. We're the correct ones. We're better than everybody else. And when someone else feels the exact same way you do, but about their God, that's where it creates conflict, because we can't be wrong. We can't have our faith questioned. You must be wrong. And the people on the other side feel the same way. And that's where the conflict happens.
Yeah.
One of the things I learned in one of my classes, it was all like, interpretation is totally subjective. So interpreting religious manuals, interpreting biblical manuals, interpreting things. The fact that the Bible was all voted on by the Council of Nicaea, like, what about all those other books that weren't considered the perfect one? Like, and then it's mind-boggling. Like, if we can't decide when like a child is like a real being or has a soul or whatnot, like, it doesn't compute. My brain just doesn't compute it. I'm like, it drives me nuts.
Right. Or if it's like something where, we know we're not, if it's going to be science related, where the discovery happens, if it ever happens, we know it's not going to be in our lifetime. So we know that in our lifetime, this conflict is going to stay right there. And we are going to have to deal with people bitching about it forever until we're dead.
Ever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
as long as you're a good person, I don't
Mhm.
care what you believe. Like as long as you're a good person and you don't try and make other people believe the same way you do, like
Mhm.
I have nothing against you. I love everybody. But
Yeah.
once you start trying to tell me how to live my life, then we have issues.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I tell people all the time, this is me being me. Remember, I am Irish and I'm very opinionated, but you have a right to tell me how to live my life when you start paying my bills.
Mm.
Pretty much. I mean, you don't pay my bills, then see ya. I mean, pay my mortgage and then we'll talk. It's just, I honestly, because people are always, well, oh gosh, I remember I moved to, I've lived all over the country, but yeah, don't show that on the
Sorry,
screen.
I'll come over here. I've been trying to like cover the label.
Show it on the screen. Don't show it on the screen.
It's
So
cider. It's
Love it.
nothing else. Apple juice.
apple juice. It's apple juice, everybody. So yeah. McKenna takes down the whole site. So when I moved to Texas, I have to tell you guys this story. It was pretty funny. So I got the first place I lived in Texas was a little town called Childress, way up in the Panhandle. It's kind of in the crook on the east side of the Panhandle next to Oklahoma. And everybody asks you, well, what church do you go to? I'm like, I don't. And that's a big deal. Like, it was a big deal. That's your first, hi, I'm so-and-so. By the way, what church do you go to? And it was mind-blowing to these people that I didn't go. I don't go. I'm like, I'm out in nature on Sundays, or I'm with my horse and I'm riding and I'm enjoying the day. I don't go to a building. I feel closer to whomever I am talking to that day when I'm out with them, when I'm out with the horses. So it was really quite interesting. So this is going down a rabbit hole, guys. So sorry, but so I get to Texas in this little tiny town and I spend like hours looking for beer. I'm like, I'm going from like convenience store to convenience store. I'm like, what is going on? There's no beer. And after like the fourth stop, somebody goes, are you looking for alcohol? Well, yeah, I want beer. And they went, you can't, this is a dry county. I about lost my mind. I didn't know such things still exist in the modern world. So I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. Well, so I met this like bestest friend, and she's still my friend today. Her name is Jerry, and she had a ranch in the neighboring county, Paducah County. And she didn't drink, and she wasn't from Texas. So we were having coffee one day, and she goes, you know what? I go, what? She goes, let's shake this place up. I go, what are you talking about? She goes, let's get it wet. I'm like, okay, how do we do that? Like, what do we do? We went through the whole process. We had to get like 1,200 signatures to get it put into the election. There was only like 3,500 people in the county of Childress. We did it. We won the election. We ran the whole election, the two of us. She didn't even drink. I just wanted a beer. We got it. We won. And oh my God, the insults from the ladies auxiliary. I have to tell you, the Southern women and their auxiliary chapters are something else, because I'm blowing in from California. She was from Mexico, and we're hated. We're absolutely hated at this point because we're running an election and the Baptist church does not want us to have alcohol in this county. And let me tell you what. So Jerry goes, we need to go to the ladies auxiliary meeting. And I'm like, oh God, this is not going to go well because I can't shut my mouth ever. And I said, Jerry, you talk. Well, you do. We ran the whole election on tax revenue. Our cops were paid $12 an hour.
Oh,
our cops were paid $12 an hour.
Gross.
So what we were doing was compiling revenue from wet counties all around us and going, look, we can give our guys an increase up to like $20 an hour if we had this revenue coming in, because you can't. There's very little public land in Texas. It's all privately owned. Very little public land. Some state parks here and there, but all of its own. So if you want to hunt deer in Texas, you have to buy a deer lease from a ranch. And some of those leases are $20,000 for a 1 week opportunity once a year to hunt deer on their ranch.
What?
Okay, so these guys are spending that kind of money on a lease. You ought to see what they're bringing in with alcohol, because all of them, but all their buddies, they'd get a lease for the same month or for the same week, and then they'd have a little hunting cabin, and all this alcohol's flowing in, right? Because those guys aren't really hunting, they're just drinking. It's a week away from their wife and their kids, or just whatever. So we ran it the whole campaign. We on tax revenue, but I have to tell you, the ladies auxiliary was not happy with us, and they told us there would be ladies of the evening and on every street corner if we went wet. It had not been wet since Prohibition. We won by 8 votes. We did it, and so the next election cycle, the Baptist Church went out and got all of the signatures needed to go back on the ballot to make it go dry again. And oh yes, Regina would like a reading. Is there anything in specific, Regina? But anyway, they lost by over 1,000 votes because once it was never back, because we had tax revenue. But I'll never forget the ladies auxiliary. Woo! Yeah, I know, Regina. I got my beer. Finally, it was like 2 years, but I finally got my beer, and then I left that county and went to another one. And so they absolutely hated me. I blew in, shook it up, and then left. So that was fun. What can I say?
I swear to God, if there's not a Wikipedia page about this movement naming you specifically, I'm going to make sure there is.
Our campaign slogan, so Jerry came up with it, and our friend had a little coffee shop right on the highway, and it said, "Get wet, vote yes." But it had, I know.
That's awesome.
God, double
That's
entendres all over the place. But yeah, so we had a big banner.
I love double entendres. They're so fun.
Oh my God, I just loved it. Okay, she's looking for a reading on drama at work and finance stuff.
Okay. Let me just give me a sec.
You know what? While you're doing that, I'm pulling cards too, because Emily's working with me and we have this. Yeah. I want to see. Yes.
I want to see your cards. I haven't seen them yet because my computer was
so
wigging out.
Fun.
Okay,
Regina. Regina, you are not going to like things right now.
Uh-oh.
I can tell there is conflict and things going on at work right now. First one off the bat is the tower. So the tower is major upheaval, major stress happening right now. So I get the feeling that people are losing their jobs right now, or they're trying to restructure, or trying to get people aren't really being nice to each other. There seems to be a lot of conflict going on, especially with this card coming in. This is the Five of Wands. Five of Wands is all about conflict and frustration. And so, like, you see there's a guy on the side. You tend to be this character right here. You tend to stay on the sidelines because you don't really want to get in the middle of it all. But it's starting to get to a point where the tower is coming into play too. So if you don't get into it and state your opinion, there's going to be there's going to be a little more frustration coming on. But there's obviously, you always have the choice. There's always the choice, which is where Seven of Cauldrons comes in. Cauldrons are all about emotions and choices and how we handle things. So you can't, again, with this card, you can't stay on the sidelines anymore during this conflict. So, like, the choice needs to be made because you are at the shore right now. And if you don't make your choice, that tower and that frustration, it'll all come tumbling down. So it's kind of a make your voice heard, make your choice known, and you'll get to hear the things that you need to. My cat is deciding to be in my corner right now. Sorry. Got distracted. And then finally with the Queen of Cauldrons, cauldrons are emotions as well. But with this frustration and with these this conflict that's happening, um, the Queen of Cauldrons comes into play. You'll gain more level-headedness if you make that choice, and if you make that that distinction between, okay, never gonna let this happen again, never gonna let these frustrations out. Then you can show what side you're on, you can show what choice you've made, and the Queen of Cauldrons will that power of that Queen of Cauldrons will be there, and you'll be able to see beyond what is that what's been stopping you. Now with finances, I'm just gonna pull one more card just for finances. And so the King of Swords is what popped up. And so the King Swords are symbolic of thoughts that we have, and they're usually symbolic with the air. So with that one, with finances, it seems like if you could keep a level head with how things are going at work and not let it impact your like your the way you are handling things, the finances should level out after a while. But right now it's kind of deal with the drama, deal with the frustration, and the finance stuff will move its way out. But keep getting this idea that maybe you've been thinking about moving to another job, and like that's where the financial comes into. If you've been looking for another job because you're sick of all the drama, the financial stuff will come into play there as well. So it's kind of iffy, but like I keep feeling like that you want a new job, so it's been on your mind. And so with this drama and this tower and everything, it's like, all right, time to just crash it all down and move on. Move to something else, move to a different place where you'll be um more respected and more you feel like you're in a good spot.
Great reading.
They said.
How did that resonate with you, Regina? That's it. It's tough, man, when you've got drama at work. It's so tough because you're there 8 hours or more a day of your life. You know? Oh yeah, I do, but I'm afraid to make that move. It's tough.
It
It's
is tough.
tough. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Regina, it's really hard. And it's I don't know exactly like the area that you live in, but I know here, like in our area, you don't leave a high paying job. You don't, because there are very few, very
Yeah.
high paying jobs here. And so you sometimes you cry all the way home because you're just it's like,
Oh,
God, it's just taking my soul, you know, and you owe on your taxes. Oh my
you
God.
poor thing.
I am so sorry. So it's hard. It's really, really tough. You stick it out because you want a house. You got to pay your bills. You want a vehicle, you know, and these little towns have very, very limited income opportunities for people.
Hmm.
So yeah.
There
I,
are there are options, Regina, when if you owe on your taxes, definitely look into some of those payment options, payment arrangements, because sometimes they can actually help you out quite a bit. If it's a large sum, you don't have to do it right off the bat. You can actually do it in payments. You can do it in sections, like so it doesn't hit you all at once. So definitely look into that because that might be a good idea. Because I had to do that a couple years ago, and like I felt like I was gonna die because it was like $10,000. I'm like, ugh, no. But I was able to pay in sections, and it took me a while, but I was able to get it done without having to feel that burden with paying with everything else. So
yeah, that's a
just a
good
thought.
option. Thank you guys for being a part of the show tonight and sticking with us through some of our technical glitches. They happen and we don't have control over those sometimes, but we really enjoy doing the show. We hope that you guys enjoy it. Please share the show with your friends. And if you're starting to see some commercials on our streams, watch those commercials. We don't have control over those commercials. that's YouTube doing that to us. They put but that's our monetization. And if you watch the commercial all the way through it, we earn money through that. So we've been monetized now. So thank you very much for everybody who's following us, subscribing. We're now monetized. We're heading in the right direction. It's taken 3 years of hard work to get us here when we're here. So, and it's all because of people watching our streams and taking part in all of this stuff. We love you and we owe you. But yeah, so we've come to the end of our hour, and we'll be back next week for another exciting talk of the gods and more readings.
Yay!
Bye everybody.
Bye.